All right, so I just want to welcome you to the Garden Wellness Center. I am Tara Parks. This is my first class in the occupational wellness area, and I am super excited to be here today. Want to kind of give you an idea of what this planning session is going to look like today. We're actually carrying this out over the course of 3 different weeks. And the reason for that is we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into some of the obstacles that come up throughout the year that can prevent us from obtaining our goals, whatever they might be. And then, we don't really have a plan on how to overcome them, and so our goals just get completely off track. How hard is it to set a goal, right? Not very hard. But is it a lot harder to overcome and adjust and make changes midpoint? Absolutely. So as long as you have a strategy to kind of figure out what those obstacles are, identify those, and then look at planning for what those hurdles might be and how you're going to overcome those, that can definitely take you a lot further in your goals. The workshop itself is actually in 2 parts. The first part, we're going to actually analyze the last year, and we're going to look at all the different things that you accomplished, didn't accomplish, letting things go, forgiving yourself for the mistakes that you made, kind of looking at a fresh start. But until you can kind of forgive yourself and let go and let that cleanse go, it's really hard. You can't keep carrying that baggage around. The next step after that is looking at planning and identifying specific goals that we want to accomplish in the upcoming year. And this workshop is really designed for you. You can use this for planning in your personal life. You can use this for planning in your professional life. If you've got specific nutritional goals that you want to identify and work towards, it's really about what kind of things do you want to work on in the next year. The packet that I have, and we'll actually include this in the link when we get done recording this will be included in there. You can download the packet. It's about 26 pages. The packet includes everything about career, personal life, etc. But my expertise within the garden space is really in that occupational wellness. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started because I'm going to try very hard to keep on time today. I only got about 30 minutes or so, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but much of this is going to be done obviously on your own time, and it's going to take some time to go through. So, you may not be able to sit down in one stretch and do all of this planning at once, but you may need to break it up, and that's kind of how I am. So that's why we're breaking this session up. So I'll go ahead and get started today by just giving you a little bit of background about myself. I am Tara Parks. I am a digital marketing account executive with Haibu. I've been working with small businesses for, over 20 years, since about 2004, and basically born and raised in central Wisconsin. I currently live in the Wausau area. I've been in Wausau since 2006. But what's really nice is that I have a very good understanding of the challenges when you're trying to present something new and when you're trying to change habits from something old, and the mindset of some of the people that are from the central Wisconsin area makes it very difficult. People are typically very resistant to change anyways, and it seems like people here in central Wisconsin seem to be even a little bit more resistant. So finding the support to allow you to make those changes in your habits to move your goals forward can be really difficult. In 2004, I worked at the Gannett, and I was at the newspaper. I finished up my undergraduate degree in 2005 from Cardinal Stritch University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Management. And then knew that I wanted to kind of challenge myself a little bit more, so I went on further and got my master's degree in business management, and I finished that up in 2009. While I was at the paper, I saw a lot of that transition in the industry when it comes to the print, not being as prevalent for marketing, but really more so that digital space. And I wanted to know more about the digital marketing. The MBA program had some basics about marketing, but really didn't do the deep dive that I wanted to know more about when it came to sales and marketing. So I went back and I got a second master's degree in internet marketing, and I finished that up in 2011. So I've really been working in the digital marketing space for a long time. But what qualifies me to really be a good person for helping you coach and helping you understand these things, in 2011, I was approached by one of my previous instructors from Cardinal Stritch, who asked me to teach some classes at Rasmussen College and at North Central Technical College in Wausau. And she just, thought that I would be a really good connector, and it turns out that I actually have a knack for that. So it's kind of fun. I like doing that. I like teaching, whether it's about business and marketing or whether it's personal coaching, but I really enjoy that. And there was a class that I taught. The colleges were noticing, like, as more students were moving to that online environment, that there were hurdles that would come up with students, whether it was, personal related, like maybe somebody, relied on a parent for transportation to and from school, and if the car breaks down or the parent has to work, so then not understanding that obstacle, and they were seeing a high dropout rate. And so they implemented this class that really was about identifying obstacles and then figuring out some strategies to overcome those obstacles before the students are even technically enrolled in class. So this was a mandatory thing that they did. And really what they saw was a very, an increase in students that wanted to continue their education, or I guess maybe a decrease in the dropout rate, because people were a little bit more prepared when it came to that. So when it comes to goal planning, and the one thing I forgot today, I'll tell you, goal planning. Planning in general causes me lots of anxiety. You'll learn this, and I'm going to be very perfectly honest with everybody. I am not a master strategist by any means at all. However, I try very hard. I don't know if they have any. I was gonna look for some dry erase markers because I wanted to write a few things down. I was gonna say, we're going to look at that. As far as like some obstacles that can come up. So when you're looking at change, really change is all about figuring out, what didn't work, what did work, and then adjusting your habits. Change can't happen unless you actually make a change in the actual behavior and the habits on a daily basis that have led to you being where you're at right now. So for example, if you ended your year and you didn't accomplish the professional goals that you wanted to accomplish, if you didn't have the ability to maybe accomplish your fitness goals, what is it that popped up, and what derailed you from being successful in accomplishing those goals? So those are some things that we're going to look at identifying. So for me, I'm going to toss this out there and say that some of the obstacles that can come up would be just family support, right? If your spouse, partner, significant other is not on board with the changes that you want to implement in your life, that can be very, very difficult. So, you can have the best intentions in the world, but if your spouse starts to, use negative talk and, talks to you in a negative way about, what you're doing, saying that you're not going to be able to accomplish this, or, oh, you always try that, it doesn't work. Understanding that you have to have a response. You can't control how they think. The only thing you can control is how you respond to the things that they say and what they think, right? So changing your own mindset and getting ready to overcome that obstacle with support. Take a moment right now. I'm going to watch the clock here. Pause the video if anything, and on a piece of paper, just jot down a few things that may prevent you from obtaining your goals. What are some things based on your goals? If you're a business owner, some of those things might be budget, right? You might be struggling with hiring new businesses or hiring new employees. Maybe you're on a precipice where you're about to grow. And if you grow much bigger, then you know that you need to make some massive changes in your business. But if you don't, then you have to be willing to kind of stay where you're at, but really, figure out what that looks like for the future. How you kind of be successful in that growth pattern there. So, take a moment, about 30 seconds here, and pause the video if needed. Maybe it's some goals with babysitting. Maybe your major obstacle is, babysitting, or you've got kids in school and, you're trying to juggle, events, things like that, other commitments through work. but just jot down some of those obstacles that might pop up and prevent you from continuing to go to a class, for example. Preparedness is another thing that can also be an obstacle when it comes to overcoming barriers to being successful. Me, again, very anxious about doing this session today, which is okay. I know it'll be fine. But totally forgot the microphone, so I apologize. But now that you've got a couple of things written down, the next step is really looking at strategies to make sure that we can overcome those barriers and that we can actually be successful in what that next year looks like, okay? And so let me give you a couple of examples, okay? When I was teaching at Rasmussen College, I had some students that had transportation issues. And so, what is if your car breaks down, if you live out of town, what are some barriers to education and transportation, right? So, online classes, obviously that's a very real thing, especially given the state with the pandemic and the ability to get access to information. So, do you have a backup plan for that? Do you have adequate internet? Do you have a great, reliable computer that's going to be able to handle that information? What are some of those strategies? Maybe you have a can or an envelope that you have a savings. It's a cash fund that you use for Uber. Right? Uber would be a great alternative, especially if you live in town. If you've got to take in-person courses, maybe it's a taxi, maybe it's a friend or a neighbor that can help give you a ride in a pinch, but having a backup plan for transportation, because that's a pretty big one, right? What's the next one? What's another hurdle that might come up? When we look from a professional standpoint, if you are a business owner and your challenges are having, with budget, for example, what are some creative things that you can do to help overcome budget issues? There's tons of grants that are out there. If you run out of budget, if you run out of things, how do you get that cash flow and how do you make the adjustments in what you're doing to make sure that you have what you need to move forward and continue to move your business forward? Sometimes it's just more hard work on your own part until you can get that savings built up. But what is that contingency plan and how are we going to overcome those hurdles? So once you have that plan in place, and you have an idea of what you're going to do, it's much easier to look at the year and start to really evaluate the things. And as we go through this workshop for the next week, when you're going through and reviewing things from the past year, it'll definitely become a lot more clear. Maybe there are things you didn't even think of that really were a hurdle and that kind of derailed you from accomplishing those goals. So the next step is really going through, and we're going to look at this packet here, which is our Rare Leaders form. And so as we go through here, I'm going to kind of just give you an overview. So really what this is about evaluating your past year. And why do we look at evaluating the past year? Really because we want to, without analyzing the past and without knowing what went wrong in the past, we can't make changes and we can't make positive strides towards the future until you understand what it is that you didn't do right or what areas it is that affected you to make different choices throughout the year. So keeping an open mind, going into this planning session will definitely help you with understanding how we got to where we are at this point, right? So what do you need to fill out the booklet? A pencil and some personal space. If you want to do this as a group workshop, you can certainly do this as a group thing. If you're planning, say, for your business, or if you've got a group of girlfriends and you want to do some physical fitness goals, or have some other, a small business group, for example, that you want to share this with, you can do that in a goal, but be mindful of the barriers that others are potentially encountering with completing the types of information that they're going to ask for, and that they may not be as open to sharing and be as open to getting feedback and actually interacting as you might be with your business. But this is something that's not going to be a fast process, because once we go through this, there's really a lot of in-depth things that you're going to want to get to know. And if you don't have the answers to some of these things, that's probably first part of the year awareness of where you might have an opportunity to grow in your business and really understand more about your growth goals. Because if you don't know where you're at with your income, where you're at with your fitness, how many pounds you've lost, how many times you're working out. If you don't know the statistics and the numbers behind it, it's very hard to analyze and really look at ways to make sure that you can make those changes going forward. The past has much to reveal, and the premise is the fact that, the reasons that your relationships ended are probably the reasons that your relationships will end in the future. When you've got failures in business, when you've got personal failures with fitness goals, those hurdles that you've encountered then, if you're not changing your behavior and your habits, identifying what that is and not making an actual conscious change to move forward, those habits are going to continue to cause you to fail and run into hurdles in the future. And so this first section really is just that simple. Going through your calendar year, looking at important events, gatherings, and get together on a friendly, significant project and write it down here. So like anything that happened significant to you during the year. And obviously in a year where there's a pandemic, I mean, there's been so many changes, lots of career changes. This has been the year, 2021 has been the year of job changes, right? And so, maybe you've tried something new, maybe you've decided to go a different way, but write down anything significant on this page here that happened within the past calendar year. And then the next is really breaking down the different sections of what your year was about. And so we live through everything that we do is interconnected, right? So occupational wellness has to do with, maybe striving for, better career goals. If you're struggling with certain aspects of, growth in your current position, what are some things that you can do and how can you, improve your skills to get a promotion? But those things that we do in our occupation and in our work environment carry over to what's happening at home and vice versa. So if you have stress, if you have physical illness, if you are not spiritually healthy, if you are not feeling complete in other areas, oftentimes those will be interconnected to other effects and will spill over into other aspects of your life. So, each of these sections here kind of breaks down what do those things look at, and then are there anything significant in each of those categories? And so some of the categories are like business, career and business studies, relaxation, hobbies and creativity, mental health and self-knowledge, right? Habits that define you. So what are some positive things that you do, or what habits do you have that everybody knows that Lynn does this, right? Physical fitness, friends and community, and then your personal life. So what was the last year about when it comes to each of those sections, and then jotting that down to kind of identify what that year looked like. The next section really looks at I'm going to check my time here and make sure that I'm not going too long. It's asking you to write 6 sentences about the past year. So the wisest decision that I made, the biggest lesson that I learned, the biggest risk that you took, the biggest surprise of the year, the most important thing I did for others, and the biggest thing I completed. And in this, you may not have an answer for each section. And that right there may be an identifier to help overcome some things and maybe an area that you need to look at improving on for the upcoming year, right? And the next section is really 6 questions about the past year. What are you most proud of? Who are 3 people who influenced you the most? And who are the 3 people who influenced you the most? And then what were you not able to accomplish? What is the best thing that you've discovered about yourself? And what are you most grateful for? Just quick, give me a heart out when you're watching this, or a quick raise hand. How many of you practice gratefulness and gratitude on a daily basis? How hard is that to do? It's not hard. How challenging is it to develop that habit of gratefulness? It can be a little bit difficult, can't it? Personally, I am extremely grateful, but when you Sometimes we get so caught up in our day-to-day lives that it is very difficult to look outside our own walls, right? Our own perception of things, and our own mental awareness, and really look at like how grateful we should be for just where we are, right? Who we're with, and the people that we surround ourselves with are really choices that we make, right? We have the choice to make that. Now, sometimes the alternative choices are not always great, but we do have a choice and have the ability to choose how we conduct our business and how we respond to things on a daily basis. And as you go through this planning exercise, and as we go back on this reflection, I also want you to consider how many times you think about things where you think, oh, well, he did this to me and you made me feel this way, or this happened and that's why I'm mad. Okay? Owning your own control over your emotions and the things that happen is a huge self-awareness in your personal life and in your professional life. Because if you go around pointing fingers at everybody else and everything else that's accusing, that's why you didn't accomplish your professional goals, you need to start looking inside. And it's about, there's only so many things that you can control. The biggest thing you can control is your attitude every single day and what makes you continue to move forward. If you hang on to things that happened that are in the past and you don't let them go, that baggage will weigh you down. It will weigh you down, and it will be very difficult to move forward. So you have to be ready to let go. So the next section in here is really about talking about the good moments, right? The best stuff that happened. And it may be a little bit more difficult. If you had a rough year, which is possible, you maybe did a really great job, the best that you could, but in the end you think you really just failed, right? And we have all had those years, trust me. I have had those years, we all have that, and we felt that way. Sometimes we have those weeks, sometimes we have those years, sometimes we have those decades, right? Just kidding. Not really, but that's where, what are the best moments? And, you may think right now there's not a whole lot of them, but as you go through and you start planning, you may remember some things. So if you think of things after you go back to this section, make sure you go back and add those in. Looking at your past accomplishments and then your challenges. And this is where the obstacles comes in, and being able to overcome some of those challenges is going to help you in the next year. And then one of the last parts of looking back and evaluating your past year is forgiveness, right? Letting go. You got to let go. You can't hang on to the things that you didn't do, because guess what? Today's a new day. So if you continue to worry about that, you're letting that negative behavior, you're letting that negative consequence continue to affect your future going forward. And that baggage, it's like a big bag of garbage, right? Like, just imagine like carrying that along. And as you keep on weighing yourself down with more and more things that you think you didn't accomplish, it's worse. If you give yourself the ability to just forgive yourself, it is okay. Nobody's perfect. And let yourself let go of those things. It will be a very awakening experience. And when you get done with this, if you have truly forgiven yourself and you've truly let go, you should actually feel like there's actually a weight lifted off your shoulders. Like you just take a deep breath and you just stand taller because you feel all that baggage gone, right? In doing this podcast today and in doing this session today, I feel like I'm ready to let that go myself. And just so you are aware, I will be doing this exercise with you, and I will be sharing some of the challenges and some of the obstacles that I've had as well. The other piece, letting go. Forgive yourself, let go. Gotta let go. And then after that, I think the final section here is in the past year in 3 words. And then just saying farewell. Celebrate it for the good things that it was. Doesn't mean that you're going to be good tomorrow, right? So continuing to still work forward, look at, what are the things that we need to accomplish in the future. And then at the very end, it says, you're done with the past year. You just finished the first part. Take a deep breath, get some rest. So with that, I will end this session. I will say thank you. Occupational wellness classes will be available at the garden every Friday afternoon from 2 to 4. If there are no personal sessions scheduled, I'm going to offer a class like this from say 2 to 2:45, but then I will have personal training or personal coaching sessions available in 30-minute increments. So if you have a specific area that you'd like to focus on and you'd like to meet for a personal session, please feel free to register for one of those sessions as well. And you know, I'm always available online. Reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a personal policy about Facebook. It tends to kind of consume everything of me, and I'm dealing with my own anxiety as I transition hormonally. Probably TMI, right? That's okay. We're all friends here. But you know, menopause has not been kind. I'll just put it that way. And anxiety has been my new partner. So working at overcoming some of those issues myself. But with that said, I don't spend a ton of time on social media for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them. But I am definitely open to getting messages, and my contact information is posted on the wellness website, on the Garden Wellness website. So definitely reach out, and I will look forward to seeing you next Friday at 2 p.m. prompt. Thank you.